Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. We're just going to give it a minute or two more here to let the last people kind of shuffle on in. Thank you so much for being here. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I can't tell you how good it is to actually see you all here. I was thinking about this evening and presenting and thinking about how a common phrase is nice to see you, but really, this evening, it is so nice to see you. My name is Tom Doherty, and I am one of our school counselors here. I also oversee our College and Career Center, along with some of our post-secondary planning. So hopefully you've been seeing lots of announcements come out through Synergy Mail or Mustang News and things like that about our website and different events we've been hosting throughout the year. I'm kind of behind much of that program. With me here tonight, kind of behind the scenes, is Ms. Darcy Hutzler up there running the screen. She is the Director of Guidance. And also one of our counselors, part of our junior team, is Ms. Lisa Lasandrello. She was here, I don't know where you are, Lisa, it's getting pretty crowded, but she is floating around here helping out. So, any other counselors that I missed? All right. So, again, 2 years ago, before the pandemic, I didn't need these readers, but now I do, so I guess this is my first shot at it. Nonetheless, as you came in, if you came in the south entrance, the main entrance, you would see Marina Pasquale. Marina is our representative from Illinois Student Assistance Commission, and Illinois Student Assistance Commission, or ISAC, helps schools out in the area with different financial aid questions, college search questions, and different sorts of things like that. Most commonly, it's the FAFSA, free application for federal student aid. We'll talk to you about that in the fall. You can only fill that out starting October 1st of your senior year. But Marina is assigned to our school as well as Nequa, Wabanti, and other schools to help us out and to help our families out with that special document. So we'll talk to you more about that in the fall, but I thought it would be nice if we invited her to come tonight so you can kind of put a face to a name and know that we do have resources even beyond our school that are out there. We are recording this presentation, so if you missed something or you want to go back and review something, we will post it on our McTIA Counseling website, so check that out. It will be posted by the end of the week. Before we get to our guests, I have a few announcements and some things I'd like to talk about and just show you again our website because it is designed to be a resource for all of our families. One thing I'd like to share is on November 16th from 6 to 8 p.m. at North Central College is a college fair. It's not a fair with Ferris wheels. March, what did I say? November. I was thinking this was fall junior night.
It feels like November.
Oh my gosh. I gotta get back in. This is the first time in front of this many people in a long time. March 16th, from 6 to 8 at North Central College. And Megan and Mike know about that because they will be there talking to you about their respective schools. You see, this presentation tonight isn't about their respective schools. They may mention them, but they're not here to talk about that. But they can talk to you about that at that college fair on March 16th from 6 to 8 p.m. at North Central College, so think about checking that out. Also, juniors, there is a free SAT test that is a graduation requirement that you all have to take here on April 13th. It is free and you don't need to do anything to register. We will do that automatically for you. So we'll go ahead and do that. In regards to testing, if you are interested in taking more than one SAT or an ACT, you're certainly welcome to do so. You do that on your own. You sign up through the college's web, or through the test agency's websites, and you sign up for a Saturday date. I'll show you on our website where you can link to their sites to go ahead and sign up. Remember, if we don't offer it or if our session is filled, you don't have to take it at Mattia. It could be at Nequa or Marmion or wherever it is that you find an opening, or if you're traveling or something and you want to take it in another state, that's totally fine. Another reminder, sometimes you will start to get, and trust me, I know, I have kids graduated college, in college, and in high school. Your mailbox will start to get filled up with different information from colleges, leadership academies, test prep places, I don't know, where else, Mike?
Student loan stuff.
Student loan stuff, all sorts of things will fill your mailbox, and your son or daughter will be the benefactor of all of this snail mail. Just know that whenever you get those sorts of things, it's not Mattia Valley that's sending out names or test scores or things like that. We do not do that. These different companies purchase lists of score ranges from test takers, and that's how it all kind of comes your way. But we are not behind that, and so we would just advise you to, if you get approached by something or some company, to just make sure you kind of look into that and make sure that where you're spending your money, it's a worthwhile and reputable organization. Last, when you start thinking about testing, and we're going to get into testing versus test optional and things like that in this presentation. When you think about testing, Mattia does not send test scores to the colleges, which is a good thing. All of you get to choose where you want your test scores sent, or if you want them sent to the institutions. That's not our job to decide, that's up to you. So make sure you realize that, and I tell you that because sometimes we'll have some seniors, even though we'll tell you in the fall again, we will have some seniors go, oh my gosh, I didn't know I had to get my test scores and it needs to be sent from the testing company to a particular institution. So keep that in mind. And last, I would like to kind of draw your attention to the handout. Hopefully you got a handout. I know Marina was handing out things as you were coming in, but there was a handout on the ledges on each side. It's a two-sided sheet. That sheet is something that we made. Mike and Megan are going to talk about what they have, which is going to resemble and be very similar to what we put on our sheet, or it's going to kind of overlap a little bit. But we made that from Mattia as kind of a resource for you. So you can go ahead and take a look at it. And some of the things on there we talked about in the fall on our fall junior night. But when you get home, if you want to put that on your refrigerator, just kind of as a resource or wherever you keep it, feel free to do so. Yes, we do have more. We're gonna leave those on the edges. If you didn't get one, they are on our ledge there. I'm sorry. Okay. Or you can pick one up on your way out.
We're going to go through a lot of it tonight, so you'll be covered either way.
But real quick, I would like to take you to our website, matiacounseling.org, and we kind of categorized it for you in resources for spring, summer. So we're going to take you to our College and Career Center. Again, as we mentioned in the fall, this site is designed to be a resource. It's not necessarily designed to be a pretty fancy site. It's for you to get information that you need. So as you can see in our College Career tab, you're going to be using that a lot next year. We have some college search tools there at the bottom. School Links is what our district pays for. Career, college searches. College Navigator is another one put out by our federal government. And Big Future is one put out by College Board. You can look at all three of those. You can look at one of those. Remember, when you do these search programs, you might miss some things. They're only programs. Some of our friends in the college world might have something that deals with marketing, but maybe their school calls it something different. So be aware of that. They're not foolproof, but they are there. That's why I like to put 3 up there. We have a link to college fairs if we scroll down just a little bit there. And other events, when things roll in. I've been trying to advertise this on the Mustang News. We're going to keep it on our other events. There's some free workshops or camps or different things, or for payment. There's some other camps on there as well, or other opportunities that roll in. We'll put that there. In the spring, you may start asking your teachers for a letter of recommendation. Students, really do your research on this though. Don't just ask for a letter of recommendation unless you know the school needs it. We will come around in a junior lesson and talk to you about that. But there's a form that you'd fill out and then bring that to your teacher. And then there's also links to our standardized testing information down below, right there. Okay, so that's spring and summer. In the fall, we're going to be using School Links a whole lot to request transcripts. So there's a transcript release form. And then we'll have lists of colleges who are visiting Matia this fall. We had 130 or so colleges come and visit. Both Megan and Mike were here representing their schools. We also have an application tracker. This kind of came out of the idea of when my kids were going through the process. It was helpful to kind of keep track of where it is you send things and what it is that you need to send to different schools. So that was kind of the result of that application tracker. So I decided to put that on our site as something that you can download and maybe make your own. You don't have to use it exactly as is, but go ahead and do that if you're interested. And then again, other helpful resources I put on there. If you're ever looking for a job, we have that on there. Community service opportunities, military resources, all different sorts of things. Again, matiacounseling.org, the college career link, or in the fall, the senior link. And currently, I have lots of things for juniors. Again, you'll see some of this stuff repeated in each area. That's okay, because I want you to find it easily without clicking all over the place. So take a look at that. So let's get on to our main event. I am truly honored to have Mike Millender and Megan O'Rourke here tonight to present to you. I've gotten to know and become friends with Mike and Megan in the last 10 years or so. Both Mike and Megan are representatives from an organization called Chicago Area Regional Representatives, which means that they reside in the Chicagoland area and represent far-reaching schools. Mike represents the University of Toledo in Toledo, Ohio, and Megan represents Providence College in Providence, Rhode Island. And they also have experience in other schools as well. I don't know if they'll share those schools with you or not. They probably will. Because it's not about tonight talking about their schools, it's about talking about this search process. They're also each members, as well as I am and Ms. Hutzler, members of the Illinois Association for College Admission Counseling, or IACAC. In this organization, both college and high school members come together to learn, teach, and grow as professionals. colleagues, and best of all, friends. Though they won't say it, Mike and Megan are two of the most well-respected college reps in Chicago. They truly are. This fall, when they came to visit, Mike told me about their presentation that they do. And this is above and beyond the college fairs and different things that you guys do, that you see them in the public. And he mentioned that they do this event for junior nights, and I said, sign us up. I want you guys to come and talk to our students because I know how well respected they are and how good at what they are at what they do. So thank you for doing that. That was the easy part, the conversation about getting them to come. The difficult part was actually finding a date. This was literally, right guys, the only date we could find in March or early April that all three of us could work this out and we could find auditorium space, and literally this was it. So this big crowd is wonderful. Thank you for being here. So tonight, Megan and Mike are going to talk to you about things that you should consider with your college search. Again, it'll kind of overlap some of the things on the sheet, so you could take that with you. Again, keep in mind our counseling staff, see your counselors about this, as well as me down in the College and Career Center. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce and honored to introduce Mike Millender and Megan O'Rourke. Let's give them a round of applause.
Hello? Yeah? Okay. I had no idea at the time when we were picking a date, it was a chorus line that we were competing against. It's one of my favorite musicals, so you might see me again in April, everybody. I don't know if we have anybody in the show here tonight. Yeah? Kudos to you all, good luck. I hope it all goes well. Break a leg, excuse me, I know the drill. Hi, how are we all doing? Good? Yeah? Are we excited? Anybody feeling a little nervous? No one's going to admit it yet. Okay, this is a safe space. You can admit if you're nervous. How many of you in the room have gone through this process before? This isn't your first rodeo. Okay? And how many first-timers are in the room with us tonight? Lots of you. Now, for those veterans in the room, turn around and talk to your neighbors and tell them it's all going to be okay, right? There's people that have lived to tell the tale and they're in the room and they're smiling, so under their masks, obviously. So we're going to be okay, right?
They'll survive.
They will survive. So my name is Megan O'Rourke. I work at Providence College. I recruit the Midwest for PC. Any Friars in the room? Thought I'd try it. Wait, really?
I'm from Rhode Island.
I'm from Rhode Island! I love it. Love to see it. Okay, but I am a Butler Bulldog. So any Bulldogs in the room? I thought I'd try that one too. Okay, so that is where I did my undergrad. My entire college admission career has been with private institutions. So that is my background, is working at private schools. This is year number 16 for me. We'll see if Mike has a microphone.
Mike?
Yeah. There we go.
Mike.
Mike,
He does now.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, hi everybody. So my name is Mike. I've gone through this before too. So my kids are 22 and 18. I've been through this twice as a dad. I have sat in this audience down the road. They went to Glenbard West High School. So I have been there. I've done this. Have a couple of scars, but I think I will survive. So you will too. So the nice thing is that there is someone assigned to this high school from every school that your student is interested in. So if you have questions about that, reach out to the people who work and cover this area. If it's a California school or New York or Rhode Island, they probably have most of the Midwest. If it's a school like Illinois, they have 6 or 8 people who live and kind of cover the Chicagoland area. So reach out to the person that is here to help you. That's what we get paid to do, so we're happy to help. So it can be a very daunting process. I saw a lot of first-timer hands, I saw some veteran hands. The process is so different. Even the veterans, from kids that are 3, 4, 5 years older, it constantly changes. We don't make this easy on you, and so that's why we're here, that's why we want to come help.
And I think the pandemic, for the veterans that are here, we're especially glad that you're here because I think the pandemic has changed a lot of things. Tom referenced the test optional thing, which we will get to, but I think that's just one of the things that you will see change in a given year at a college or a university. So Mike and I do this kind of presentation at a lot of different high schools, and we work with students at varying points kind of throughout their high school career, trying to figure out where am I going to go and how do I get from point A to point B. And there's a lot of nerves and there's a lot of stress. So we started doing this presentation. We're going to walk you through kind of from your point right now, you know, what day is today? March 7th of junior year. What can you do from this point on? I'm sure that plenty of you have started the college search process. Raise a hand if we've maybe done a visit or done some research on the web. Okay, so we've got a lot of you that have started doing these kinds of things. Our hope is that by walking you through some steps to follow, it might make this a little easier for you all. And so our hope is that by going through these things, you'll have a better sense of maybe where to visit and what kinds of schools might be the right fit for you to apply to come the fall. Fair enough?
Yeah.
So we like to kind of bracket these into 3 different sections. The handout that you have kind of reference a few of these things. So we like to talk about fit in 3 different capacities: academic fit, social fit or personal fit, whatever you want to say, and financial fit. So those are the 3 things that we're going to start with, and then we'll go through quickly kind of the process of what everything looks like when you get to the point of applying.
Okay, we're talking about fit. Who has set foot on a college campus looking around? Some hands, a few? Yes? Okay. Who has Mr. Doherty referenced it earlier. Who has started to get stuff in the mail? Oh, really? That's weird. I can't believe you guys get stuff in the mail. What about emails?
Anybody getting
Anybody an email, random email or 2?
Just a few, right? Just a few.
Is there anyone, any student with an absurd amount of emails already?
We've got our
Yeah.
camera guy in the back. How many do you have?
Like 20 every day.
20 every day.
20
Okay.
every day, he says.
Perfect.
Okay. So,
It's going to get worse, I think.
Yeah.
all of the stuff that you get in the mail, these books, they have fabulous pictures in them. There's a clock tower or a dome or a group of students sitting around or like someone over a microscope. Like, they all,
Those are not posed at all every
yeah,
day.
no, they all have those.
Yeah.
All of us, we do that. So your job is to go there, meet the people, eat the food, smell the smells, walk around, and try it on for size. Because when you talk to people who work in admissions, when you come to the college fair, March 16th at North Central College in the field house from 6 to 8, shameless plug. When you come talk to us, all the people who do what we do will talk about how, oh, there's a rainbow on campus every day, and our students ride uniforms to class. It's magical. That's what we get paid to tell you. Granted, we'll give you some more substantive information, but a lot of the, especially the really new counselors that just graduated from their universities, very enthusiastic about their school. So, your job is to go see these places in person to see what it feels like. And that's what we talk about when we talk about fit. I think, Megan mentioned 3 things. Academic fit, I think that students and parents, for the most part, can agree on strengths, weaknesses when it comes to certain things academically. So, my wife has a degree in finance, an MBA, went to law school, fantastic student. I have a degree in journalism, more social sciences. We are very different students. And when it came to our kids and talking about what they were interested in studying in school, the question was like, well, what do you want them to study? And for us it was like, well, what do they want to study? What are they interested in? So I think encouraging what your student is good at is the best thing you can do. I mean, if my son, who did not fare well, I think I fared worse, but in math, had said, I want to major in physics, we probably would have had a very serious conversation about that. Because math is not his strong suit. So he likes to talk. So he likes to write. So we lean more that direction academically. So I think that's kind of the first thing is when you start thinking academics, is you start looking at what do I want to major in, which will help steer where you're looking to go visit.
Now, here's the thing, because I was one of these students. You could be sitting here like, we've already had that conversation, Mike, and I don't know what I want to do. Do we have anybody in the room who has no idea what they want to study? Thanks for the honesty, even though that was apparent. Okay, we got a few of you. So here's the thing, and parents, this is something to be aware of, regardless of the type of school that you look for, or you're looking at, I guess I should say. Every school is going to offer some sort of programming for undecided students. It's a thing now. A lot of the students that come into most colleges and universities are some form of what we call undecided or undeclared, and that is okay. We have the ability for them to kind of explore their options, still graduate on time, but kind of understand more completely what is the intersection of what I am good at and what I like to do, because that's usually where the dream job status lives, in my opinion, right?
Yeah, because I know for parents, in the parent era, that was a scary proposition. If you didn't know what you wanted to do, you did not get a lot of direction, you did not get a lot of help, there was a lot of wandering aimlessly through different classes. This didn't count for that major, and that didn't count for this major, and you just didn't know that. Those people who went through that process are now the people that work at the universities and have come up with these very dedicated programs, and they all have fun names for it too. So like you mentioned, undeclared, undecided, exploratory, discovery, multi-interested, the open major. So there's a lot of options for you. So you said it perfectly. It's where what you like and what you're good at intersect. That's the idea. So for my son, physics was not it. He might think it's cool, but math, not so much.
I think one of the other things to consider, you know, Mike works for a larger public school and I work for a smaller private school. And we will do this presentation and people will ask us like, okay, so great that you're talking to us about academics, but like which one, big or small? It's like, oh, if it were only that easy, okay? Here's what I will tell you about schools like ours. We try to emulate each other. So if you go to a school my size, maybe a little bit bigger, definitely smaller than mine, my school's about 4,200 undergrads, you are going to hear things about like, look at all of these options and choices, and we have all of this stuff that you can do, academically speaking. Where it's schools like Mike's or bigger, they're going to be like, we have these small, personalized living learning communities that you can do, right? We try to emulate one another when it comes to the kinds of experiences that you can have on our campuses. There is no right or wrong answer when it comes to big versus small. Yes, we live in Big Ten country, but that doesn't mean you have to look at a Big Ten school. Not every student is suited to going to a big school, right? And you might not know that right away. So some of the things that I tell students when they think about looking at big versus small, if they do want to narrow their choices, is, are you someone that sits in the front row? We've got a couple people here. Or are you one of those people in the very back row of the thing tonight, like hoping we don't notice you, right? Is one bad or good? No, it is what it is, and that's okay. But are you someone that can kind of more passively take things in? You don't need to be like in it and involved and engaged. Are you okay with classes being about 10 to 20 students? When you come to a school like mine, the average class size will stay consistent from freshman through senior year. When you go to a big school, freshman year, sophomore year, maybe will look a little bit different, but by the end, for sure, we will look the same in terms of the size of classes that you are attending. And at that point, you're going to be in a major that you love and you're excited about, so that's not going to matter. You're going to want to have that level of engagement.
Yeah, so do we have any University of Illinois grads in the house?
There we go.
All right, has anyone taken a class in Bollinger Auditorium? Okay. Who knows what the capacity of that room is? What's that? I heard 1,200, you're pretty close. 1,361 students.
How many students are in Providence College's freshman class this year? 1,102. Our entire freshman class can fit in one classroom at the University of Illinois.
So, people take classes in a room that big. There weren't 1,361 students in your class. I'm well aware. But you sit, you listen, you take notes. Then, after that, you'll have a discussion section. It'll be a small class or a lab or something like that. So, if you find it intimidating, if you had students, if you had class in here right now, and you had your laptop out, and you were just taking notes, could you handle that? Does that seem weird to you? If it doesn't, then any size university is going to be fine for you. If this feels weird or intimidating to you, start with the mid-size and maybe get smaller from there.
Yeah.
So.
And my preferences, and we're going to keep touching on this again and again, visiting is so important for this exact reason because you'll get a sense of the size when you're physically on the campus. Yes, you can do a ton of research ahead of time, and our websites have a plethora of information, but practically speaking, the best way to discern whether or not the size of the school is going to be a good fit is by going. I went to a smaller high school, and so when we went to go, I'm from St. Louis, we went to go visit Mizzou, I was like, there's no way. It was just too big. But there were a lot of girls from my high school that had attended previously. It seemed like it was a good choice. Lots of kids go to Mizzou, so I wanted to go see it for myself. But seeing it for myself is what led to the discovery of, okay, mid-size or smaller is where I need to be.
Yeah.
I would also say we are at a good point for you all because spring break has not occurred yet. When is spring break? End of March, so it's coming up quickly. You have the ability to take spring break. Your spring break and our spring break at colleges and high schools typically don't line up to go maybe see a college campus. And we're very lucky where we are located that you have plenty of options in this area. So you could go see the University of Illinois, it's a couple of hours away, right? You could go see Bradley, which is a mid-sized private school. You could go see North Central or Elmhurst, which are smaller private schools not that far from here, right? You have a lot of choices when it comes to size and location in terms of choices.
Yeah, and I think that we transition into sort of the social fit. What is right for you? And so walking around on that campus, you can see the size of it and how you fit in as a student, but how you fit in as a person. And I think that you also get a sense of that when you go to see those places. So show of hands, who are the big school people who went to a big university? Illinois, Big Ten, Illinois State, Northern Illinois, anything like that. Lots of, who went to a small school?
Yeah.
Okay, so small school person. Did you have fun in college? Adam Blacks. Okay.
I liked the way
We like not even, no hesitation whatsoever. Do you have to go to a really big school to have a good time in college? Okay, I understand that that's not why you're there. You're there to learn and earn your degree, but you would like to have a good time while doing that, yes? Okay.
And it's essentially your home for the next 4 years, right? Like you spend more time there than you will with your family over the course of time.
The ratio of things to do and people who go there is the same at just about every school. The giant school has a bazillion things to go do. The medium-sized school, plenty of options. The smaller school has options. There's just not that many people, so they don't need as many options, but they are fun options, things to go do. What is the town like? Where is the town? That's a factor too. Is it just a college town and everything revolves around the university? Is it in the suburbs like North Central College down the road? Suburban Naperville, people do all kinds of fun stuff. Is it downtown? Is it in the city like University of Illinois, Chicago? Columbia College, Chicago, small college, but downtown. So where it's located will help you determine what sorts of things you do outside of the classroom. Because I think that's the weird thing for students to kind of start realizing. Because you come to school here 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and you're here till 2:30, 3:30, 7:35. So you're here all day, Monday through Friday, stuff on the weekends. Like there's all kinds of stuff. College, you are in class 2 or 3 hours a day. That's it. And you have 22 hours of moderately supervised free time.
Just please scare the parents right now.
I saw lots of hands going up, they know. So what you do with that free time, hopefully you're sleeping 6, 7, 8 of those hours, hopefully, please.
Yes.
Eating, homework,
Yeah.
studying, getting involved in activities. But what is it you're going to go do? What do students do who go there? You know who the best people to ask about that? Students. So when you go on these tours, ask students who pay money to go there, by the way. Ask them, what do you guys do here?
Yeah.
They'll tell you. They'll give you the very, I give you the like filtered professional answer-ish. They give you the very unfiltered, very real answer. So ask them.
I think for me, the personal, when you talk about like personal or social fit, this is maybe where a parent list and a student list will diverge slightly. That's okay. That's why conversations amongst the family are probably going to be helpful and important as you go through the next year and a half, I guess I would say. For me, one of the things that I think is helpful to some of the students that I work with at a school at the size that I do is for some of the students that are attracted to a school like mine, they like the idea that there's like, I can join this thing or do this thing and then maybe be some sort of like leader in this group or organization as a sophomore, right, or a junior. Like big fish, small pond, that's exactly the kind of situation or scenario that a lot of students want or are interested in. They have the opportunity to take advantage of all kinds of things. Not that you can't at a big school, there's just more people, right? One of the other things that, for those of you who are involved in like fine arts related activities, that is a great question to ask. You might not want to major in it, that's okay. But if that is something you would like to do on the side, ensure that the school has something like that for you to take advantage of. Alternatively, if you are an athlete and you're not going, D1, D2, D3, but you want to play a sport of some kind, club sports and intramural sports are different kinds of opportunities. So ask some follow-up questions. Club teams travel usually, compete against teams at other schools. Intramurals, it's one group of PC students against another group of PC students. So asking those kinds of questions when you're there, we're expecting them, we're hoping you're thinking about these things. Try to really cram everything in while you're on those campuses. Because I think that having the kind of pieces to the puzzle and like, here's my pro list, here's my con list, will give you a much clearer sense of like, okay, these are the things that I've got to have when I go away. Because this is a big decision, probably the biggest decision you've made to date.
Take a lot of pictures too, because
yes.
it will, after going on a handful of visits, certain things will start looking the same and be like, was the dining hall there? The one with the taco bar? And you won't remember, so take a handful of pictures.
The last thing that I would say about personal fit or social fit, it's tied a little bit to academics. We get questions all the time about like, can I study abroad? Are there internships available? Can I do research? Those things are going to be available at any size school in any part of the country. So college town, small kind of more rural area, big city environment, we've got them all, and it's probably a proportional thing when it comes to study abroad programs potentially, but ask those questions too. I think it's important to ask those things while you're there, but schools of any size and of all calibers are going to provide those opportunities to students. So yes, your big ones are obviously going to have them, but everybody else has them too. So just FYI.
Okay, third leg of this stool is financial fit. So this is never, typically this is not something that parents and their high school students talk about. Let's sit down and talk about finances. That's typically not a regular conversation, but I would encourage you to start having those conversations with your students now so that they get a better understanding of what paying for college is going to look like. Is there a treasure chest under the bed full of gold bars? Fantastic. I'm guessing no. But start having those conversations so that it's not a surprise. What does going out of state look like? What does in-state look like? What does community college, like all the different types of options? And once you go through the process, we're happy to talk to you about that once. So this time of year right now, all of your friends who are seniors just got all of their financial aid awards, which shows tuition and fees, room and board, scholarships, grants, all the fun student loan options, all of that stuff with kind of a bottom line number. Most of your friends who are seniors have a pretty decent idea about what it's going to look like for them to go to each one of the schools that they have applied to. So have those conversations now, so that might help determine where you're going to apply, the realistic expectations about going, Do I have to fly there to get there? Things like that. Because we have both seen that it gets to this time of year and a student will say, well, I talked to my family and it's just not affordable for us to go to your school. And we knew that maybe from the beginning, but we didn't really have that conversation last fall. So talk about that now with your students. So, because in the end, don't be afraid, don't be scared off by the sticker prices of the school.
Right.
Because,
well, there's a lot of opportunity in terms of financial, like, incentives or scholarships or whatever you want to say. Illinois is one of the largest exporters of high school seniors to go to college in the country. I know you're all shocked to hear that.
yeah, Illinois students
We're like
go
number
out.
3 or 4.
Two?
We're number 2? We're number 2, everybody.
Yeah.
We're almost there.
Illinois is second in number of students, I believe, who leave, and second in the percentage of students who leave.
Is it New Jersey is number 1 or California?
New Jersey is highest percentage, California is the highest number.
There you go. So we're second only to New Jersey, everybody. Okay.
That sounds like an East Coast Rhode Island.
I don't even know anything about New Jersey. Everyone is like, when I get to campus, I grew up in the Midwest, and they'll be like, blah, 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 this school. And it's like, sure. I can tell you about Mattia Valley. How about that? Okay, so here's my thing about, and obviously I work for a private school, so this is like a little bit selfish on my part. But I have worked, in college admissions for so long, I think there are so many families that just assume, oh, it's just going to be too expensive. And I think the biggest difference that you will find is that schools like mine have a little bit more wiggle room, both in the admission process and in the financial component. You might hear this starting to get a little bit like in the weeds, but this idea of shaping a class, meaning we can pick who we want and give them the money we want to get them to come to our campus, okay?
So left-handed oboe player from Wyoming.
Yes, yeah, they nailed it, right? Okay. So I think for a private school, it's not going to be cut and dry to say this number and this number get you in, and this number and this number get you a scholarship. And the reason being, the University of Toledo, the University of Illinois, the University of Iowa, Madison, Michigan, these are taxpayer-funded institutions. And so they are held accountable to their state for providing these kind of clear-cut guidelines. We don't have that same, we're not taxpayer funded, so we have the ability to kind of say, okay, this is the kind of student we're looking for in terms of admission, and these are the kinds of students that get scholarships at our schools. Here's the only trick to this. I worked at 3 different places. So I worked for my alma mater, go Bulldogs, even though there's not a Bulldog in this room. Any Marquette grads in the room? I might get one. No? Okay. I worked for Marquette after that, and now I work for Providence. Love a Big East school. The thing about all 3 of these places, they all do their admission process differently and scholarships differently. So even within the category of private schools, you will see differences in how they admit students and how they award scholarships. It's not a bad thing. We have those choices, but just be aware that deadlines and things, that's why that spreadsheet, I'm going to go back to this, that spreadsheet that Mr. Doherty has on this website, so helpful so that you can keep track of deadlines and you can keep track of everything so that you don't miss out on any of these opportunities. That was my soapbox.
Yeah. At the end of the day, generally speaking, the amount of student debt from a private university to a public university, they're very close because, like Megan mentioned, it's their money to give away to whomever they wish and how much. At my school, at University of Toledo, it's a public university. It's like Illinois State. It's like Northern Illinois. That kind of a school. It's very, this GPA, this kind of student gets this dollar amount. It's a fairly transparent process. But at the end of the day, the amount of debt after college is almost identical nationwide. So don't be scared off by the higher sticker price because you'll get bigger scholarships at those schools.
And I think that's why if you don't already have that college fair on your calendar, that's like such a great intro. You can ask some of these questions. We produce, and you're just going to bring home a bunch of stuff, so pack accordingly, but a bag of documents. So go to the schools that you're interested in, and we'll have the deadlines for admission, how much it costs, like the sticker price, as what, kind of what Mike was referring to. And then you'll see, here's information about scholarships. The other thing that's maybe a little bit different about a private school, there might be money available like based on leadership or something like that. We utilize more, and we're going to talk very briefly about the process. We typically ask for more things in the application process, and sometimes those things can be utilized then as scholarship review.
Yeah, you're going to get books like this. And when I joked earlier about a clock tower, you can't see it, clock tower. So it's real.
We don't have a clock tower, so we don't have one. No domes. I know. We do have a microscope.
Good save.
Thank you.
Okay.
He's got your back.
Application process.
Okay. So let's talk about the application process really quickly, just so you all know what you're getting yourselves into. When you apply to college, there are typically going to be 5 things that you will see that are, I can't even say this anymore, mostly required at a lot of places, or asked for in many instances at public schools or private schools. It might be all 5 things, it could be 2 of these things, some sort of combination. Okay, just think about the 5 main things. Any guesses as to what those 5 things could be? Transcript is one. That's the big one. I heard it over here. SAT or ACT. So test scores, yes and no, but that would be the second one. Recommendation letters.
Statement of purpose.
Essays, very good. Well, the application, yes. But one more, it's in the application. Activities, very good. So those are your 5 things. Transcript, test scores, activities, essay, letters of rec. We can talk about interviews and stuff, but like not everybody does that. Those are the main 5 things. Transcript, test scores, activities, essay, letters of rec. Some schools are going to say we want all 5. Well, we don't want test scores. So we'll take 4 of the 5. Your school wants 1 of the 5. Okay? Yeah. We'll get into that in just a second. So let me talk about test scores very briefly. I usually tell students it's probably worth sitting for the test. If you're in the state of Illinois, it's a graduation requirement to just take that test because it's free, right? So just use that one as the test that you take and see how it goes. Because of the pandemic, you couldn't go anywhere in person, so testing didn't exist. So a lot of schools said, oh shoot, we probably can't require this anymore, and a lot of schools backed away from requiring test scores.
Yeah, it had been sort of a growing trend that people said, the SAT, the ACT might not be the most indicative thing that's going to show a student's success in college. So a lot of schools started to say, you know what, if you don't want to send us your score, we're fine with that. But during the pandemic, because people physically could not go take the test, schools were like, well, I guess we're going to start not asking for it. And so almost every school put it on hold for a year or 2.
Yeah, at least, if not permanent.
If not permanent.
We were a school that we hadn't taken test scores in almost 15 years, so our school has been test optional for a long time. So the main thing then that we look at is your academic record, right? So just for your understanding, if a school doesn't require test scores, there's more leaning on the academic record, right? That's day in and day out work over the course of the 3 years of grades that we have when you apply. But also, some schools then implemented, you all are going to love this, extra things that you had to do if you don't submit a test score. So there might be an additional letter of recommendation, or you might have to submit an extra essay. Not ideal, but not terrible, so there might be other things that are required of you. But these 5 things, 1, you just need a transcript, right?
Yeah, that's at most larger public universities. The transcript is the most important thing. Some will require tests still. We do not. Some still will. And then some will ask for an essay, but usually it's like a really short answer kind of thing. It's not like the typical really long essay.
Yeah, and that's it.
And that's it. So other schools want to dig a little deeper.
Yeah, we want all those things. So you'll get all of these things together. I encourage you, if you are looking at schools that require an essay, the Common Application is an application that over 900 schools across the country will accept. That's an easy place to start. They have 6 or 7 different choices. You can look at those essay topics. I would say to start reviewing, start looking, start thinking about what you want to talk about. You can be funny. It doesn't have to be funny. We've read sad essays. We've read kind of mundane, run-of-the-mill essays and everything in between. The topic is up to you. Pick something that you enjoy. I don't know what that was. Okay, never mind. And then know that there might be an additional question that is asked of you as part of like the essays or short answers, kind of what Mike was referring to.
Yeah, I think some of the advice on the essay, and Megan touched on it, is parents, let your students sort of be themselves on this essay. I know that a lot of times we are very programmed to, it has to have a strong intro and 3 supporting paragraphs and a nifty conclusion. Like that's the format that's sort of in our head. There are people who sit down and read 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 of these a day for weeks on end. Mix it up a little bit. If you're the funny person, write a funny essay. If you're the weird person, you can write a weird essay. It's okay.
I've read poems, songs, scripts, and essays all in this year alone. So it doesn't have to be formatted the way that you think. The last piece of advice for the essay, the college essay guy. You Google, give him a quick Google. Ethan Sawyer is his name, but college essay guy. He has a whole website with lots of free, great resources if you are needing some help brainstorming an essay topic. Mr. Doherty alluded to letters of rec, and I want to reiterate this. Not every school is going to need a letter of recommendation. This is not a moment where more is better, okay? Trust me when I say this. If a school says we don't want them, do not send them a letter of recommendation. We have colleagues at the University of Illinois, they literally will not read them. So even if you send them, they are not going to read them. So you've now wasted your time in getting that together and the teacher's time getting that written to send to a school that's not going to review them, okay?
So if they ask for 2 letters of recommendation, 37 is not better?
No.
It's not okay. So.
1, if a school says, hey, 1 or 2 is good, and here's why. If you are a consistent student, the letters will start to say the same kinds of things about you in those letters. That's not a bad thing. When I get to the letters of rec in an essay, or excuse me, in an application, my hope is that all of the things that I've already read are confirmed in that letter, right?
It's kind of the neutral third-party endorsement.
That's the neutral third-party endorsement is a great way to put it. Your teachers have really lovely things to say about you, but give them, first of all, give them plenty of time to write them, and only ask when they are needed, when they are necessary, okay? And every school is going to have a different answer. Mike said this at the beginning. We don't make this easy on you. So ask those questions ahead of time. If they are required, in most instances I've seen 1 or 2. There are schools that have more, but lots of places, if they want them, want 1 or 2, and that is going to be sufficient. Deadlines will typically start, if it's an official deadline, it's like November 1, November 15, December 1, and then we get into like January 1st, January 15th, February 1st. I was working with a student last week or 2 weeks ago, and she was like, listen, I got all this stuff done. I went and visited all these places. I got my application together, and I felt relieved when I got to winter break that I was done. And she's like, I'm not done. I was like, no, you're not. That's the kind of tricky part to senior year. This is going to last a little bit longer than you all expect. So deadlines can go through the winter, and then Mike referenced this. You're getting decisions or financial aid packages in this time next year.
Yeah, and then, so you'll get this information senior year in the springtime. You have all the way until May 1st to make that final decision. So, and that's nationwide. So every university in the country, you have until May 1st to make that decision. Don't feel pressured. If you want to wait until The night before that, you can. I don't know that I would, maybe 2 nights before, but maybe you can do that. But I think that most students, if you've done the research and you've narrowed all 4,000 plus universities down to 3 by spring of your senior year, it doesn't matter which one of those 3 you pick.
Yeah.
You've done the research, you've properly narrowed it down. Any of those 3 are going to be good choices. That's how they became those finalists.
But I would say that, and you would probably, I hope you would agree with me, I feel like we work with students that think, and parents too even, there's a right choice and a wrong choice when we get down to the top 2 or top 3, and that's just not true.
I would say if you've narrowed it down to a handful, even if it's 5, the wrong choice is all the others you eliminated, and the right choice is any one of those 5. Right? If you're that person, right versus wrong, like any of those finalists is going to be a fine place for you to go.
And that's why, we're encouraging you to go to this college fair, to start doing visits, because practically speaking, the earlier you can start, I think the better you'll feel going into senior year. Senior year should be enjoyed as much as possible. The thing that I love about our job is that you all students are in such a unique point in your life. This is such a unique existence for you all to be in, right? You're in this very big transitional period. It's never going to happen again. So enjoy it. Take advantage of all of the opportunities that senior year will provide you, and know that there is a season for everything, right? At the end of this, the outcome is that you have found your forever home, right? That you have this place that you'll go to for 4 years that you are tied to, and we want you to be proud of that. We want you to be excited about it. So understand that the more you can do to help yourself manage everything, the easier these things will become, the timing of it, the process of it, getting it all done. While not easy, hopefully you'll feel less stressed about it, because we know that a lot of you have stress and anxiety about school, let alone the college stuff.
And take advantage. Students parents, you probably don't realize, but this high school has fantastic resources for you. The fact that that website exists, the wheatseacounseling.org website, with all of those things on it, I would say 10% of the high schools in Chicagoland have something that comprehensive,
Correct.
and even fewer have people who are solely dedicated to working with you to talk to you about this college process. So take advantage, make the appointment to go to the College Center, meet with the staff, take advantage of the resources that are here. You're very lucky to have that. Not a lot of schools have it.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's all of the official information we have to share with you. We want to open it up for questions and see if there's anything that we covered that you want more info on, or just you feel confused about. Yep, we've got a hand over here. Oh, that.
How does early admissions work? Like, I've heard that you can apply and you agree that you're going to accept it at a name first or something. Is that,
Yes.
how does that fit?
So the question was about early admission and how early admission works. I'm assuming you're referring to early decision.
Yeah.
Okay, so early decision is one of the kinds of deadlines. Remember when we said this was complicated? Okay. Early decision is one of the kinds of deadlines that exist. Early decision is offered at a handful of schools across the country, and you, by applying, you are saying, this is it for me. If I get in, I'm coming. It's my number 1. I love it here. I've been wearing black and white since I've been a kid. I love the Dunkin' Donuts Center, whatever. That's a PC reference for those. They love their Dunkin' out there, okay? So, we have ED at PC. It is not for everyone. I think there's a certain level of commitment that comes with ED, and financially, you don't have a financial aid decision before you apply, so you are applying kind of going in without that information.
So you're saying you apply, and then no matter what, if I get in, I'm going.
That's how you should view it, yes. But that doesn't mean you're not going to be eligible for scholarships. It doesn't mean you're not going to be eligible for financial aid. You just don't have that information. So ED, or early decision, requires you as the student to sign something that says, okay, if I get in, I'm withdrawing all my other applications. The parent then signs something that agrees to that, and then your counselor signs something that agrees to that. Like I said, it is not for everyone. Lots of schools don't have this, right? There are, I don't know how many that do, and how many do you get in a year that will apply ED?
I was going to add, can you hear me? I was going to add, we see very small amounts of students. I mean, we have students that do go early decision, and then sometimes when we call them in to talk about this agreement, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize it was binding.
Yeah.
So we'll talk to you again in the fall about this at our senior night in August. But early action, okay, it's not binding, it's just applying early. Early decision is the one that's binding, and we see a small percentage of our students do that.
So when it is something called early action, like Mr. Doherty just mentioned, you apply earlier in the process. It might be September, October, November. You're definitely ahead of the deadline. And the early action means that the college is going to review your application in their first round and give you a decision earlier than their regular decision.
Does that lock in any extra money from that school or anything by deciding early?
Are you referring to ED?
Yeah.
No, not necessarily. No.
Early application, not ED.
Oh, yeah, early, okay, so with early action, there might be schools that say, the benefit to applying early is that you might be able to apply for this extra scholarship or something like that. There probably are schools out there that do stuff like that. That is a great question to ask when you're in front of those people on March 16th at North Central.
I would say what we see too is a lot of times some of the scholarship deadlines could kind of coincide with some of the earlier deadlines.
Yeah, so a lot of times the general scholarship application, like all students who apply by, and I'm making this up, December 1 are eligible for the full array of scholarships. Because there are people who will wait until March 7th and say, I'm going to apply. They might not get nearly as many scholarships if they wait that long.
In the back, yeah.
You talked about the effect of the pandemic on ACT and SAT testing and the acceptance for schools where they're kind of backing off on accepting that.
Yeah.
But by next year, when the juniors become seniors, do you kind of see them going back to that?
It's a loaded question. Yes. So the ACT, SAT question of like, okay, people backed off of it for a couple of years, but then next year, when you all are seniors, if you're catching on, what does that mean for next year's class? It's a mixed bag. I've seen, and I'm sure you have too, schools that have come out to say like, it's good PR, I think, to them, like, oh look, we're doing this permanently. But there have been a handful of schools, and we've been in presentations with a couple of them, where they have said, it's 2 years only and we're reassessing. So I would pay attention to some of the places that you are applying if they've made a decision that is not permanent and they said they're going to reassess what that decision is going to be. And I hate that it's a it depends answer, but I feel like in this instance it does depend.
I'll add to that, and that's what I'm seeing. It depends. Some have permanently been doing this for a while. Some have adopted it for good,
Yeah.
you know. And then there are others that are on this trial until a certain year, and then we're going to reassess. They're not committing. I would say for most of what I've seen come in our office and talking with all the reps this year, I think most of you as seniors are going to have a test optional option at many of the institutions. One state, though, that their state legislature is still requiring a test score is the state of Florida. That was at least as of this year. So I don't know what next fall will bring, but Florida, a state school in Florida, if you were looking at one of those, they were requiring test scores. So we'll see what the fall brings, but again, this stuff changes pretty quickly.
I would say, to put a number on yours, I would say once this all goes through, it's going to be about half and half. So there's a website you can go to called fairtest.org.
F-A-I-R.
fairtest.org. Fairtest.org. It's a comprehensive list of who requires it, who doesn't.
Got a hand back there. What does test blind mean? That's a great question. So if a school is test blind, it means that even if you've sent a score in, it is not going to be reviewed. They will look at no test scores. Columbia, Chicago, I believe, is a test blind school, right? That they, NIU is as well.
Yeah, so is the University of Toledo. So it doesn't matter. So we just look at a student's transcript. We look at the grades that they've received, honors, AP, regular coursework, all of that. We don't use the test score for
So even if
anything
someone
at all.
sent it in?
You could get a 37 on the ACT, and it would not help you. I know you might get one. So, or a 1601. So it just has no bearing on anything for us at all.
Can I just add to that test optional deal? It's also, when you look at schools, it's a great thing that, you know, it's something that might not be needed. It is great, but it has made it a little more challenging for our families to kind of figure out. So you might come across some schools that are test optional for admissions, but then the test might come into play for some scholarships. So, you know, and there's 4,000 some schools out there, so I don't have the answer for every single school, nor does our counseling staff. So really, when you're looking at these schools, really ask these questions about, are you test optional for admissions and for scholarships? Or is that test score going to help? And a school might say, it's not going to, you know, at Providence, it's not going to help at all, or Toledo, you're test blind, so it's not going to help at all. But some schools, it may be a little mix and match. So just be aware. That's why we like these evenings, to educate our families so that you can make the best decisions in the fall.
Such a great point.
Why not?
So if you are like a good test taker, right, is it in the school is test optional, is it still a good thing to submit your test scores if they are good scores, or is it kind of?
Our favorite answer, it depends. In this instance of what Mr. Doherty is saying, I would say yes. If the school is going to look at it for scholarships, for sure send it in if you are a good test taker. A school like mine, it's not really going to make a huge difference one way or the other. If you say, I want this considered, we will see it, but that's not going to make or break a decision.
So find, I said it at the beginning,
Yeah.
find the person who is the person for your high school, shoot them a quick email. Hey Mike, I go to Mattia, I'm a junior, and just ask, because there is one program that we require a test score. It's a direct admit med school program. So the med school requires it. It's not really us, but the med school does. So stuff like that, just ask. It's not, the thing is, the people who do what we do for a living, we're on the side of the students. We want you to go to our school, right? And we're going to do everything we can. If it's a student who's kind of borderline, we're going to look for reasons to say yes. And we're going to go to our boss and be like, I don't know. I mean, I met with this student. We talked over Zoom. I met with him at the high school. We initially met at the college night, North Central College, March 16th. We met at the college night. Like, I think they're the kind of student we want here. And so we will advocate for students. So just shoot that person an email. And Mr. Doherty has a resource of every one of those people.
And I would also add, you might be looking at a school. Some of our schools are so transparent that they have a grid with GPA and test scores, and you can see exactly what you're going to get automatically. Sometimes I can think of a few grids where you have a really strong ACT or SAT and a really high GPA. You could get close to full tuition or full tuition at certain institutions. It just depends.
Yeah, that's right.
When is the deadline to fill out the FAFSA for taxpayers?
So the deadline to fill out the FAFSA.
No, go ahead.
Well, it really depends on the school, so you can check, look at all the schools that you're applying to, but apply as soon as possible after October 1st of your student season year.
And is there any trend that exists in terms of applying the courses like a base grade versus regular versus high aspirant, something? Is there an equation that exists? I mean, just as a trade, I'm asking, as a parent, should we look for any particular trade to apply in the colleges like
And you can use the FAFSA to apply for financial aid at a community college or any four-year school.
If I could just add one thing to that too. If you like filling out a FAFSA, in the fall in October, if you really enjoy the FAFSA, some schools you might be applying to, oftentimes the highly selective schools, have something called the CSS profile. You will love the CSS profile because it is like a FAFSA and a lot more time to fill out and a lot more information. But take a look at that as well. I don't know, does Providence use the CSS?
We sure do, guys.
Okay. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. But FAFSA goes to every school. Definitely you want to send it there. And CSS might be in some of the schools that you're looking at.
I don't know to answer this question, but if you were thinking about applying to like a school that's outside of the country, how difficult would that be?
They too have, okay, so her question was, if you're looking at a school out of the country, how difficult is that? We have reps that actually are based here. It might not be the school that you're specifically interested in, but there are reps for this area, from the state of Illinois, from the Midwest, whatever it's going to be, for places that are, Canada, Scotland, Ireland, wherever. So you can find those resources on their website, and I would definitely start a dialogue with those people now and see what the differences are. I don't know if you have a lot of students that end up doing that.
No, we don't have a ton, but yes, definitely see the resources. And some of those schools are even on Compact, and some of the ones in Canada and things like that. I don't know where you're looking, but you can maybe try to get you in touch with some people like that.
What have you mentioned? Scholarship opportunities that might be available at a school, and it's all predetermined, charted out, kind of what would be available at a certain GPA. Is that published, like where we can research it now?
Yeah. So it's questions about scholarships at the public universities especially that have some sort of a chart or a grid or some kind of a matrix that tells you. Yes, that's typically on the admissions website. You can find it. A lot of times we'll have score ranges if your GPA is 3.4 to 3.74 and then 3.75 and above, things like that. Most colleges are on a 4.0 scale, so just keep that in mind. What are you guys on?
We're on a 4.0 weighted.
Okay. So out of 4.0, so whatever your GPA is, and does the school take the weighted GPA or not? We won't tell you that, so that's why you have to ask us. So we will tell you, but it's not readily available a lot of times. But those charts typically are pretty easy to find.
And I would say it varies too, from state school to state school either. Like some of them will have that grid. Some of them will just say if you hit certain numbers, and some won't say at all.
Right.
It's just really.
We'd love to make this complicated.
If you ask the person, though, even if it's not available anywhere in the world, they could tell you, well, a student in that 3.77 GPA range should get about, and they'll just tell you, but they'll make it seem like they're not really telling you.
With that, I'd like to thank all of you for coming out. This is a wonderful, wonderful showing we had. We really appreciate it as your counseling staff. And really, okay, Mike and Megan are going to stay for a little bit. But let's give them a round of applause.
Good luck, everybody.
The other thing I was going to say, we talked about the college fair in North Central. There are a few others in the area coming up. They're on. If you go to our site and click on that link, I think, are you guys in Lewis? Lewis University has tomorrow evening. That's on our team. And there's another one in the area. Thanks for coming. Drive safely. Take care.